This is chapter 17 of Thunder Cave, starting on page 141, the bottom paragraph. The two men talked for hours. Once in a while, I tried to figure out what they were saying, but mostly I just looked at the fire and thought about the things that had happened to me during the past several days. I was caught up in something I didn't fully understand. I now knew that I wasn't in Africa just to find my father. There were other reasons for my coming here. Sapit's arrival at the riverbed was not a lucky coincidence. Perhaps you are here for other reasons. The conversation between the two men stopped abruptly. Satanik stood up and walked into one of the huts. Sapit watched him go. "What's going on?" I asked. "He's preparing something for us," Sapit said. "For us?" "He says that you are part of this, too." "Part of what?" "The rain ceremony is more complicated than I thought," he said. Then he told you where the rains are made?" "Not yet, but he will." What's my part in this?" I asked. He didn't say, only that you were a part of it. "Perhaps you have already fulfilled your part." "I haven't done anything." Sapit ignored my comment and continued. "The rain ceremony must be performed during the coming full moon. Satanik says there is no other time that it will work." "So what's he preparing in the hut?" "He's going to teach me the ceremony, but first he wants to throw the bones." "What bones?" "You'll see," Sapit said. Throwing the bones is how Satanik sees into the future. He can read the bones. Just then, Satanik stuck his head out of the hut and motioned for us to come inside. "Let's go," Sapit said. I got up and followed him to the hut. A dog was curled up outside the entrance. On my way in, I reached down to pet it. It whirled around and snapped at my hand. I jumped backwards and fell. It wasn't a dog, it was a hyena. It let out a loud, eerie crackle and scooted to the other side of the corral. I looked up at Sapit and Satanik. They were bent over, howling in laughter. Very funny, I thought. How was I supposed to know it was a hyena? The Maasai put up a thorn fence to keep hyenas out of corrals. Only a strange old bird like Satanik would have one for a pet. The two men got themselves under control, only to start laughing harder. Laughing again, harder than the first time. "You should have seen your face, Jacob," Sapit said in between bouts of laughter. Satanik was having a hard time catching his breath. I stood up with as much dignity as I could as I brushed myself off. After what seemed an eternity, the laughter subsided. "Well, that certainly broke the ice," Sapit said. "Would you like to try to come in again?" I walked past them into the hut. Sapit and Satanik followed me in, and we all sat by the small fire that burned in the center of the dirt floor. Satanik pulled a small bag made of leopard skin out of his shuka. He carefully opened the bag and spilled its contents out onto the dirt. Among the bones were several colorful beads, old buttons, coins, pebbles, and a small round amulet with a carved snake eating its tail. It was almost identical to the one Tal had given me. I pointed it out to Sapit, and he said something to Satanik. Satanik talked excitedly for a few moments. "He wants to see your amulet." I took it off and handed it to Satanik. He held it in his gnarled old hands and felt the impression of the snake with his thumb. He said something to Sapit. "He says that it is not the same, but it is similar. It has power like his, but a different power." "I don't understand," I said. Sapit smiled. "It is enough to know that it has power." Satanik said something else. "He says that you should always wear it. That it is like... There is not an exact translation, but it is like a body organ, a vital body organ." I knew exactly what Satanik was saying. When the amulet wasn't around my neck, I felt peculiar, as if something was missing. "He says that there is something else," Sapit said. I waited to hear what it was, but Satanik didn't say anything. "No," Sapit said, "something you have with you." I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't have anything else. Then I remembered the kachina. I pulled it out of my pocket and handed it to Satanik. Very gently, he took the doll and held it near the fire. Sapit and he had a very long conversation. I guess Sapit was explaining to him what the doll meant because I heard the words Kachina and Hopi several times. When they were finished talking, Satanik handed the doll back to me. I took it and looked at Sapit. He says the Kachina is very important, that it has come a long way to help us. He will say a blessing to thank it for coming here. Tell him that my grandfather says thanks. Sapit translated to Satanik and smiled. Now he's going to throw the bones. Satanik scooped up a pile and held it gently in his crooked hands. He said a couple of words, then spit in his hands and let the bones fall to the ground. He looked at the pile for a long time, then noticed and said something to Sapit. The bones are happy tonight, Sapit said. Satanik picked the pile up and poured it into Sapit's outstretched hands. Sapit went through the same routine, spitting on the bones and letting them drop. Satanik examined the pile carefully and told Sapit what the bones were saying. He says that I am lucky, and so are the Maasai. What about the rain? I asked. The bones said nothing about the rain. What does that mean? It means I am lucky, Sapit said. Perhaps that is enough to make it rain. He picked up the bones and handed them to me. What am I supposed to do? Throw the bones, Sapit said. But I don't know what to say. Just spit on them and let them drop. The bones know what to do. I spit and let them go. Satanik came round to my side of the fire and peered down at the pile. He turned to Sapit and said a few words. He says that you are going to have a difficult journey. More difficult than I've already had? I wasn't thrilled to hear this. Apparently, Sapit said. Great. How about 2 out of 3, I thought. He will now show me the rain ceremony, and I will practice. Do you want me to leave? No, you may stay. Satanik went to another part of the hut and came back with 2 small zebra skin drums. He handed one of them to Sapit and sat down next to him with the other drum. He looked at Sapit to make certain he was paying attention. Then he tapped out an intricate pattern on the drum. Sapit listened carefully, and when Satanik finished, he tried to duplicate the beat. The first couple times he didn't get it right, and Satanik corrected him by saying something, then repeating the beat on his own drum. After a few tries, Sapit got the rhythm down, and the 2 men tapped it out on their drums in unison. Satanik began to chant, and Sapit joined in. The drums and the sound of their voices reverberated through the warm hut. I was fascinated by the ceremony and wondered what the words meant, but I couldn't keep my eyes open. I pinched myself a couple times to keep from falling asleep, but it didn't do any good. I woke up the next morning lying next to the ashes of the fire. I got up slowly and walked outside. Sapit and Satanik were sitting in the center of the crowd talking. Sapit waved when he saw me, then continued his conversation with Satanik. I walked over to them. Did you sleep well? Sapit asked, standing up. I'm not sure. I don't feel very rested. It was probably the drums. He helped Satanik to his feet. It is time for us to go, he said, and they started walking away. I followed behind. One of the women ran over and gave me a handful of dried meat. I thanked her and put the meat in my pocket. Satanik stood near the entrance and said a few words. Sapit bowed forward. Satanik spit on his hand and put it on Sapit's head. Satanik turned to me and said the same words, and when he was finished, I bent forward. I figured that he was saying goodbye or giving us some kind of blessing. Satanik then reached into his shuka and pulled out the bag of bones. He said a few words, then handed the bag to Sapit. Sapit looked shocked. He held the bag in his hands and stared at Satanik. His eyes misted over, and tears began rolling down his face. Satanik smiled and took off his necklace and put it over Sapit's head. He said something else, then turned and started back towards the corral. Wait a second, I said. Satanik stopped and turned. I reached into my pocket and took out the kachina and held it out to him. He smiled broadly and took it from me. I didn't think Tal would mind. Satanik said something. I turned to Sapit for a translation. He says that the Kachina will be with you no matter where it lives. With tears still flowing, Sepet watched the old man disappear into the corral. We will go now, he said. What? I will tell you soon, he interrupted. Come. He put the leopard skin bag under his shuka, and we walked away from the corral. As we headed east towards the Grumman escarpment, Sepet and I didn't talk. I knew that something very important had happened between him and Satanik, but I didn't ask him what it was. I knew he would tell me when the time was right. As we walked, I thought about Sepet, my father, and Africa. I had more questions than answers, and for the first time in my life, I realized that the questions might be more important than the answers. I felt more comfortable walking with Sepet than I did sitting in my living room in New York City. Perhaps Africa was my real home, something I knew my father had already discovered. I saw things differently now. It was as if I was in tune with the land around me. I was able to be myself, and I felt more alive than I've ever had before. I was no longer a visitor. I was part of what was going on around me. My mother said that mankind originated in Africa. In fact, the oldest fossil remains of a man have been found in northern Kenya. Perhaps I was home, the place where human history began. We reached the riverbed by early afternoon and began following it south. Breaking the silence, Sepet said, Satanik is going to die. I stopped and looked at him. How do you know? He told me, he said. And a man like Satanik knows when he's going to pass. I believe him. After all those years of life, Satanik would definitely know when death was near. It made me very sad. He'll be buried as a Levian, Sepet continued. When a Maasai passes Satanik's grave, he will place a stone in honor of him. Eventually, a small hill of stones will mark his grave. For some reason, this custom sounded familiar to me, and I wondered if I had read about it in one of my books in Africa. Why did he give you the bag and the necklace? Sepet didn't answer right away, and we started walking again. After a while, he said, I, too, am a Levian. I wasn't surprised by this. It explained a great deal about what had happened during the past few days, especially at the riverbed, when he apparently knew I was floating above him. Then you are to take Satanik's place? Perhaps, he said, although no one can truly take another's place. With the necklace and the bones, Satanik gave me some power and authority, but I may never have his knowledge. True power is held by knowledge, not by position. And he told you where to go to perform the rain ceremony? Yes. Where is it? Not far from here, he said, and oddly enough, you have seen it. What? It is in the same cave you saw when you were outside your body. He looked at me for a few moments, letting this sink in. I thought about the cave. I could see it clearly, and it wasn't my imagination or a dream. It was real, and I knew then that I had actually been there, that I had actually left my body. It was not a hallucination. What does all this mean, Sepet? The cave is very old and sacred, he said. Very few have been in there. It is said that even to look in its direction can bring bad luck. But I was there, I said. Sepet laughed. Your spirit was at the cave, he said, and you were taken there. You had no choice. I think your luck will be good. Satanik said I was going to have a difficult journey. The journey of all young men are difficult. What about the ceremony, I asked? You didn't have a drum. You don't have a drum. The rain drum is in the cave. It has only been used a few times. Satanik has used it twice. And it worked? Yes. Nkoku came. Nkoku, the long rains. When will you perform the rain ceremony? The moon will be full in 2 days.